I'd like to call to order this meeting for the Land, Water, and Forest Resources Committee for October 9th. Roll call, please.
John Sarowski,
Here.
Steve Carrianen,
Here.
Kay Wilson, Randy Newman, Brian Bissonette is excused. You have a quorum.
Okay, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag,
United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Certification of compliance with the open meetings law.
This meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Okay, and number 5, the meeting agenda is set. Number 6, public comments. I've got one here. Rhonda, state your name and address.
Hi there. My name is Rhonda Isold. It's spelled E-I-S-O-L-D. I live at 11007 West Chief River Road in the town of Round Lake. Although it's not on your agenda, I would just like to take a few moments to discuss the Callahan/Mud Lake District that is being proposed. First of all, I'm strongly opposed to the approval of the Lake District for many reasons, and so are many of my friends and neighbors on the lake. My primary reason for opposing any Lake District is that they will give a group of private individuals the ability to tax me on my property taxes. Citizens within a lake district can be taxed at a rate of 2.5 mils. As you know, the Lake Association wants all lake residents and others to pay for the dam on Callahan Lake. This is a long-term financial commitment, and my property tax could be increased by 32% for the next 20 years. I've lived at this property for 6 years, and I've owned it for 25 years. I strongly object to any private group getting the authority to raise my property taxes. I've tried to get copies of the signed petitions from the Lake Association to see if the petitions were legal and legitimate. The president of the association told me to get copies from the county, which I've been trying to do. My understanding is they haven't been submitted to this board at this point. However, the association has stated many times that they intend on submitting these petitions by the end of September. The fact that they're not here yet makes me very suspicious. But in the interest of keeping this brief, I just want to stress that there is opposition to the Lake District on Callahan and Mud Lake. At the appropriate time, I will be presenting arguments against the Lake District. This is just informational, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Any more, Lynn? Okay. We're going off to number 7. Consider the approval of the minutes from a previous meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, motion has been made. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded to approve. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Register of Deeds report. The monthly report we have in our packet. If there's anything that anybody needs to look at or any questions? Sorry. Number 9 is events. Do we have any events for today?
No application submitted.
Okay. We go to number 10. Land Records and County Surveyor Department does Surveyor October 2024 report. We have that in our packet. They've been working on corner maintenance again, as they're having to do, and in the towns of Hunter, Lenroot, and Round Lake, and corners in the town of Winter, which were affected by the construction of Old Highway J. And one final county plat and one preliminary county plat, 6 certified survey maps in September. Go to the land, the lister report, real property lister report, I'm sorry. And that's also in the packet if anybody has any questions. In the Sawyer County Forestry Department, number 11, recreational trails report. Kathy?
Kathy LaRue with the Sawyer County Alliance. Our clubs and contractors have been working on the trails, getting them ready for winter. Pretty much all of Trail 31 has been recently graded, so it's nice and flat, ready for snowmobiling. I think they just started on Trail 77 as well. A lot of clubs have work days scheduled. Trail counters, although I don't have a written report for you, the recent counts that I've been seeing indicate high usage. Most of the individual trails are counting between 2,000 and 3,000 users per month, which the other interesting thing is, of course, Saturdays are the highest usage, followed by Fridays and Sundays. The time of day that's most popular to ride is between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. There's a little bit of a spike right after the lunch hour as well. Just interesting data. A couple weeks ago, the Wisconsin Department of Outdoor Recreation put out a report on ATVs, and I thought I would just share a little bit of it with you. It's just interesting data. Early 2024, the Wisconsin ATV Association released an economic impact report that found ATV and UTV riders spent an estimated $4.2 billion in Wisconsin during 2023. This spending occurred across various industries, including motor vehicle dealers, lodging, restaurants, gas stations, and retail stores. Between 2016 and 2023, out-of-state riders increased by 66%, while resident riders grew by 35%. That's quite a jump. The 2023 report also found that ATVing generates significant economic activity, from jobs to tax revenues and visitor spending. Tax revenue alone connected to ATVs in Wisconsin totaled $435.4 million, coming from vehicle sales, fuel tax, income taxes, registration fees, licenses, and other sources. There's also a ripple effect, of course, and the total economic impact as reported in this was $5.4 billion, supporting 39,804 jobs. Lastly, they discovered that there is a social impact to ATVing, which I knew there was, but in an era where loneliness, this is from the report, in an era where loneliness is a health epidemic declared by the U.S. Surgeon General, motorized sports provides abundant opportunities for social interaction and togetherness. That's my report, unless you have any questions.
Any questions for Kathy? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything on the non-motorized railroad? Okay. Next would be the county forestry report.
Okay, for September, we had 16 sales listed as active. We are still seeing a high level of timber sale activity. We've got a lot of contractors finishing up jobs before extensions come on in a month or so. So market seems to be holding okay. Sale value sold and uncut on file right now is just over 4 million. Sale revenue for the month was a little bit over 250,000. So our year to date is 2.17 million. So we have exceeded our budget for the year, and doesn't really show any signs of slowing down anytime soon. So things are looking pretty good for us. Sale inspections are on target for the level of activity. We did have 7 new tracks turned in for review. As part of that, we have prepared our fall timber sale bid prospectus that was out this week. We have a bid opening scheduled for October 29th, and that'll be approved at our November meeting. Recon updates are on target. We did have 37 hours of G&A work done this month as well. We're still working on that for year 25 contract. Oak wilt, nothing new to report there. We still have the 1 tree off of Janet Road that we're still monitoring after our treatment. ATV, UTV snowmobile trails, the Trail 11 rehab project from Tuscobia Trail to South Lost Lake Road is actually completed now. That was 3.1 miles, grant funded. Tuscobia rehab project from Schrock Road to Wooddale has started. That's a 2-mile rehab. Trail 5 is still on hold, waiting for that contractor to show back up to finish the project. I'm not really holding my breath on this one, but we'll see what happens. He's got till the end of the year. We did have the Off-Road Vehicle Council funding meeting at the end of August. We did receive tentative approval on 3 of our maintenance grants, and we did get 4 out of 6 rehab grants that we applied for as listed. Other than that, I really don't have anything else to report. Any questions?
Hey, Greg, with that Trail 5, can that be open to another contractor to complete that project, or we have to give that money back to the state?
Once, we still have time. So once we get to the end of the year, when his contract's up, we can rebid that out for somebody else. So we should be okay.
Any more questions? And we will go off to C, Sealy Forest Trail proposal. Maybe if I can just call you up and state your name and your address.
My name is Montgomery Mao. Address is 13435 North White Pine Lane. So I am the president of the Sealy Trails Foundation, and we're here today to propose a new trail system in Sawyer County and hopefully get approval from you. So do you have the presentation slides? There we go. Okay. So if we can go down to the next page. Yeah, can we go to the next one? So we're gonna, sorry, up to the agenda. There we go. So we're gonna talk initially just about the Sealy Trails Foundation, its mission, and then we will go through an overview of the proposed trail, and then we'll finish with a look at our budget. So the Sealy Trails Foundation, if we can move forward. I won't go through the whole mission statement, but I think the important thing is to know we are a 501c3 public charity. And I think the most important thing here is the last statement, where our goal is to enhance the health and well-being of individuals in our community and promote local economic growth and preserve the natural heritage of our region. And we'll talk more about that in a couple of slides from now. So the trail itself, we can move to the next slide. There we go. Oops, back up, sorry. There we go. So our objective is to create more opportunities for people to get outside, be active, and enjoy nature, the nature that we have in our area. And while we have a lot of existing trails, there are a number of unmet needs that we aim to address with this new proposed trail system. And just to kind of give you a high level, it's designed to be an easy year-round trail multi-use, non-motorized multi-use, that people can get into nature. They don't have to have advanced skills. Because it's an easier design, you don't need specialized equipment. It'll be pet friendly. And importantly, it's going to incorporate existing logging roads as much as possible to minimize impact on the forest itself. And then lastly, excuse me, we're planning to include 3 historical points of interest to help celebrate Sawyer County's heritage. So if we can move to the next. So when we're talking about the trails, we'll start with the motorized trails and how we're addressing challenges. So historically, when mountain biking started growing, our local mountain bike association went out and basically mapped and marked a lot of what are ATV trails today. And that was how mountain biking kind of got started in this area. And which, in the past, it worked really well because there wasn't a lot of usage, both motorized or non-motorized. But now both have grown tremendously. And the growth in the motorized trail use has also seen increased machine sizes, increased speeds, and they've become less compatible with non-motorized use. And so our trail is designed to take pressure off of the motorized trails and move them onto non-motorized trails. And then in the winter season, snowmobile use only. And I know it's probably been 15 years since fat biking. In the wintertime, you've seen the big fat tired bikes that ride on snow. And when this first became a thing, people headed to the snowmobile trails. But it didn't take long to figure out that that was just a very dangerous way to use the trails with the speeds of the snowmobiles. So then, in order to address that, there was grooming that was specifically for winter bike riding on some of the single track mountain bike trails. So we'll move to the next one and talk about the non-motorized trails. So we basically have 2 types of trails here: ski trails and then purpose-built single-track mountain bike trails. And we'll start with the ski trails. In wintertime, they are limited to skiing only. No pets, no snowshoeing, no hiking. They tend to be hilly and more technical, so it can be challenging for novice people or challenging for people who are now aging and not comfortable on some of more technical terrain. And then in the summertime, because of the grassy surfaces, they're typically not used. People just, they have to be grass because of the design of the trail. They need it for erosion control, and because of ticks and other things, people tend to not use them in the summertime. So then we move to our purpose-built single-track trails. So we've got a local mountain bike association that I'm sure you're all familiar with, CAMBA. And so they've, built a pretty amazing mountain bike trail system. One of the challenges is that they tend to be technical for people who are not very experienced mountain bikers. They require more advanced equipment that tends to cost more than the average person is willing to spend on a bike. And then also in wintertime, when they're groomed for fat biking, it's challenging for people who are new to fat biking or people who are aging, which actually is one of the things that prompted the whole concept that we're talking about today. So let's move on. So more about the trail that we're proposing. Multi-use, a wider trail, easier terrain. And when we say multi-use, we're talking about families on bikes that aren't expensive, just, your everyday riding bike, kids' bikes, grandparents with grandchildren, groups of people, pet friendly, multi-use in the summertime and the wintertime as well. So let's move on to the next one and talk about winter use. So winter use, we think it's important to create a trail that can be used by just a large number of people, not dedicated to any one activity. So, and we actually, 3 years ago, created a test concept that we'll talk about when we look at the map. And again, it was designed to be wider, easier for people to ride their bikes. People have used it just for ski touring. They're not out there hardcore training like they are for the Berkey. They're just out to get in nature and enjoy what we have to offer in this area. Pet friendly is another thing in wintertime that's difficult to find because ski trails are definitely off limits to dogs. And the groomed single track really isn't very pet friendly at all. So let's move on. And then importantly, this is a trail that, we lack this in this area, and that's a trail that's open to disabled athletes because our trails just are not conducive to that in this area. So the trail design, our plan is to use, and we've got it mapped out, and we've been out with Greg walking most of it. So we're using existing logging roads as the primary corridor in the forest, and where we're not using numbered logging roads, we're using skid routes with only just a couple of really short sections where we have to actually cut new trail. So we're just cleaning up, making it useful corridors. 12-foot wide corridor. We're going to maintain it as an 8-foot wide dirt surface. And again, we think that's important to keep it as a dirt surface, not let it turn to like a 2-track grass type trail. So to be able to actually maintain it, there's an implement called a Harley rake. You sometimes see them used to grade roads, gravel roads, things like that. And it's an implement that you can attach to either a tractor or a skid steer. And you basically just recondition the surface with it. And because of our design, we can get in there with the equipment and be able to keep that maintained in that fashion. So the location of the trail will be based out of the County 00 trailhead. And I'll do a little more detail on the trailhead itself in a minute. But now in front of you, you should have a large map. And so we'll just talk a little bit about that. So what we're talking about today is phase 1. This is a 3-phase project that we're doing. And phase 1 is the trail in red. Phase 2 is the yellow, and phase 3 is the green that connects you down to the Sealy Hills Recreation Area. So in phase 1, you'll see a dashed red line. And that dashed red line is the trail that we've been using for winter only use. And again, its popularity, people asking for more and asking for it to be usable year round is what really has prompted this whole project. And so that trail would be upgraded to year round use. And then we've got a multi-loop system out of the trailhead that starts out with, easier flat terrain, gets into more rolling terrain. So you've just got more opportunity for people who are not skilled or just want to get out into nature. And so that's the purpose of the loop system. So you can add to your activity, add distance to it, as you see fit. So let's move on. When you're looking at the map, you'll see 3 points of interest. And those are the historical points of interest that we're going to talk about next. So the first one is Camp Smith. And that was a CCC camp. I don't know if everybody's familiar with Camp Smith or not, but if you go to the next slide, so these are photos that we got from the Sawyer County Historical Society showing the camp being built and operating and then if we go to the next one, the 2 slides on the bottom are actually remnants of the camp that still exists today. And we've got a group of people who are ready to help us clean that up. And we would put historical signs describing the area, what it was for, how it was used, I mean, what they were doing there. And so that's one of the points of interest. The one on the upper right is actually, that's the dynamite shack. And when you stumble upon it for the first time in the middle of the forest, you kind of go like, it's a little eerie, but anyway, it's a really cool building. And the story is that's where they stored the dynamite when they were building Bodecker Road. And so it's a really cool little building that once cleaned up would make a nice destination for people when they're out doing their activities. And then the third point of interest, which isn't actually on this slide, is the future Sealy Fire Tower observation deck that hopefully will get built someday. I know it's on the plan, the recreation plan, but and so we want to incorporate that into the overall trail system as well. And so a little more about the trailhead itself. The Double O trailhead is the most popular in the area, and for a reason. It's easy to get to. It's between two major highways, centrally located in the kind of the Cable Hayward corridor, and it has the best amenities of any trailhead in the area. Taking advantage of the Johnson Family Outdoor Center, flush toilets, lots of parking, EV charging station, community space. So it's a logical place when you combine that trailhead with the terrain that we have out of the Double O trailhead. It's the logical place for it. So what are the benefits to Sawyer County? Well, we know that recreational trails drive economics, and so that's, as part of the Sawyer County's comprehensive plan, that's one of the things that they want to see happen is to create economic development by using our recreational resources. It supports the Sawyer County Outdoor Rec Plan. So this project meets 7 of the 9 objectives that are listed in that Outdoor Rec Plan. And then the third is no cost to Sawyer County. So the Sealy Trails Foundation is planning to fund this whole project, and we'll go into the budget in the next slide. So our funding, since we are a 501c3, we have a 3-pronged funding approach. So private donations. We actually have a foundation that is keenly interested in funding this project. And then we will also go after grant money as we can. And so the phase 1 is the loop system out of the Double O trailhead. And we want to include the spur trail that gets you over to the Camp Smith point of interest. And we're going to update the existing winter trail that we have been using and make it usable year round. And then, which actually connects you over to the Sealy Hills recreation area. And that'll be about 12 miles of trail all said and done. You can see the numbers that we've budgeted. And if there's anything that we could not do on this particular budget, is we could hold off on the Harley rake, and just if we can rent one rather than buy one, we would do that. So next slide. So to summarize, our plan is to create a unique, easy, year-round, multi-use trail using existing logging corridors so that we minimize the impact on the forest. We are including the historical points of interest so that we can celebrate Sawyer County's heritage. We want to drive economic activity, help enhance tourism in our area, and increase quality of life for our Sawyer County residents. And we want, with this type of trail, we'll be able to connect a wider audience to nature in our area. So any questions?
Any questions?
Yes, I have a question. This is a very large project, and I assume it's going to take some time to complete. Do you have an idea of what the timeline from start to finish would be?
Well, our plan is to, the three phases, we figure each phase will complete in a year. So, the first phase, once approved, and again, these are existing logging corridors for most of it. So it's a matter of cleaning them up and just making them, usable, more or less. So we're not cutting new trails, we're not cutting, doing major excavation. It's literally just cleaning up a lot of what's existing already. So we can move pretty quickly. So our plan is to do each phase one per year. So it would be a 3-year project.
Okay. Do you think this project is going to have any impact on future logging activity in the area?
It shouldn't. We're using existing logging roads and, because of the design, if after logging has been done, we can just get in and clean it back up, because when they're using these same roads to pull logs out, and when they're done, it just kind of opens the corridor a little bit more, and it actually makes it easier to keep the corridor open. So it shouldn't have any impact on future logging.
Is it okay if I ask Mr. Peterson if he concurs with that view?
Sure.
Yeah, actually, that was probably one of my first questions when we started talking about this. And that was one of the stipulations that we couldn't have any restrictions for timber harvesting. We did the same thing with the single track trail. It's like, well, we can support it, but we can't restrict. If you look at this map, we've got a lot to go around already to try to manage timber. So that would have to be a written out, a stipulation for this project.
So you don't really see any impact on your ability to manage the health and productivity of the forest resource there?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, good. Appreciate that. All right, thank you.
I guess my question would be then, are you saying that you develop these trails and all of a sudden there might be a timber sale in that area? Would they take over these roads then? Or reuse the roads?
Yeah, so and we have sales scheduled, throughout this area. So, it will make it, the public perception is probably going to be the biggest issue we'll run into. But being developed on existing logging roads, skid trails, it's like there's kind of a precedent there that's the primary use, and then that's where I sit with this is, our timber industry is the primary use of the forest. So my philosophy is if we can fit recreation in with that, we will do that. So there will be some difficulties with it, certainly, but my philosophy is we're not going to change our timber harvesting to accommodate a new trail system. If that answers your question.
Yeah.
I kind of rambled a bit.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
I'll just follow up. I was just going to ask that too. It's consistent with the relationship we have with these other trail groups as well.
Yeah. And so it's something we deal with all the time, just educating the public about what we do and why we do it. So, and really the pressure on the county forest, especially in this area, has been exponential. So it's a tightrope that we walk, every day, trying to manage timber and try to provide, viable recreation for the public too. So, it's a struggle. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but it can be a struggle to make things happen.
I guess my point is that some of the pictures throughout there they're real nice and they are more of a tote road. So they're not as wide for a logging truck. But if you put the work into that particular trail and then there's a logging job and they use that trail, that road you would have to then go back in and redo that road, yeah. And that's all considered in the proposal.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, I don't know what, it's a discussion, possible action. Would there be somebody that would like to, make a motion to proceed with the development
Can I ask,
or
guys, got a question real quick?
Yeah.
Do we have, and I thought we have like written agreements with, is it the Sealy Hills or Canva? And I know we have one with the Birkebeiner. Do you feel we need any type of written agreement? It's something they might need for some of the grant funding at some point.
Yeah, we would have to. We have a MOU with Berkey. We have an MOU with Canva. We're working on something with the Sealy Hills rec area. So I mean, there's some steps that we have to take yet. The final product, I mean, this would have to have county board approval. I mean, this changes our access plan, this changes designation.
Right.
I guess, you know, my 2 cents, I mean, I've thought about this a lot. I was approached, I think probably February or March, and we've been kicking this around a little bit. And while, you know, I think the community could use a trail like this. I think it would be used. The points that Montgomery presented on with the technical trails, you know, I feel like we have kind of veered away from family recreation on some of these trails. That being said, you know, the pressures on the forest is a concern. The trail density is a concern. And I have been getting a lot of feedback about this trail from other user groups as well. So it's possible, but I think we've got some hurdles yet to work through on this.
Yeah, I think maybe what the committee, if you're looking for a motion today, would be to continue to proceed on
yes,
endorsing the concept and, yeah, proceed the forest administrator working with the foundation to get an MOU together. I would, you know, I think that's the motion, you know, not necessarily approving it, but just to encourage or
And I guess,
endorse moving ahead with planning for it.
I guess
keep it alive.
Yep.
I have kind of, it's probably going to be an unpopular opinion here. I know Montgomery's getting anxious to make something happen. I get that, but this is a really big project. And what I would like to do, I'm just sitting here trying to figure out how to make everybody happy. So I'm thinking with some of the feedback I've been getting from the other groups is if we could possibly maybe have a couple meetings with other user groups involved. We did our access plan in 2009 where we had reps from all the user groups. And I'm worried about kind of pushing this through without getting a lot of input from the other groups, because there are impacts to other users on this that aren't generally represented. And like I said, I do like the trail concept. I think it's a good trail, and I think that the community can really benefit from it. But I just want to get everybody on the same page. If that makes sense.
I think that's a popular opinion.
Okay.
And I guess I'll just add, I think my past experience, I think this fits a niche that doesn't get touched very often. You know, every year almost you hear about the family or the individuals from not this type of area that go out on the nature trail thinking it's an easy walk, and they get a half mile out and realize they're it's above their, you know, they were expecting the rail bed that goes through the city that's easy to walk, and it's not. But I think with the number of intersections as well, I think to help the foundation out, when you start having intersections with motorized trails or other user groups, all of a sudden you got people on your trail that you weren't anticipating, to make sure that's all figured out and there's communication amongst the groups, I think is a good idea.
I want to make a motion that we table this and let Greg set up more fact-finding meetings with all the user groups in that area before we even proceed any further.
I would second that.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to table it and communicate more. All opposed, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? The motion has been made and accepted. Thank you. D, the DNR forestry report.
Hello, I don't have a formal report for this month, but myself and the other DNR employees have been continuing working on timber sale establishment across the Sawyer County Forest. I would like to mention the drought that we are in is a concern for fire danger. Now that we are getting some freezing temperatures at night, a lot of the grasses are now curing and are readily available to be consumed. So fire danger is pretty high yet until we can get some rain, which hasn't happened in a month or so. But that's pretty much all I got for the DNR report. Do you have any other questions for me?
Any more questions? Thank you. Thanks a lot. E, I'm going to press off to Steve.
Thank you, John. This morning we've got Mike Martin, Ranger for the Great Divide Ranger District, here to give us an update on what's happening on the Chequamegon National Forest, at least as it pertains to Sawyer County.
Great. Well, thank you and good morning. As Steve said, my name is Mike Martin. I work as the District Ranger for the Great Divide Ranger District on the Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest. Just by way of a benchmark, I know you're probably familiar with our forest, but we're about 1.5 million acres that straddle the northern third of the state of Wisconsin, and the Great Divide District is about 390,000 acres, anchored right here on the western side in Hayward, going all the way to Glidden. Steve asked if I would come and just share a little bit about activity happening on the National Forest, and I'm glad to do that in a general sense today, and then take any questions that you might have over actions on the National Forest. From a forestry standpoint right now, we're at a transition point. We have about 2 active sales that are being harvested right now. We have 30 on the books that could go active at any time. Right now, we're at the point of transitioning our fiscal year. October 1st is that break from fiscal year 24 to fiscal year 25. So we're setting our sights on 25, but we did complete our target last year of 125 million board feet as a forest. And our portion of that moving forward in 25 again will be about 18 million board feet. Our 10-year average is around 20. So we're responding to some of the declines in staffing that we've had over the past 5 years. We're working in a more of a rebuilding era, training staff to go out and mark, cruise, and administer sales. So that's the direction we're in right now. Some of the issues that we're facing right now in forest health, we have 3 new finds of emerald ash borer within the district. Some of those are on the Ashland-Sawyer County line around Highway GG, a second find near east of Moose Lake, the original find by Moose Lake, and then some more to the north. So our forest is grappling with response to that and how we'll keep ash on the landscape or manage for ash moving forward and that replacement. Oak wilt is also another concern this time of year. We have about multiple dozens of sites that we've found and are treating with girdle and herbicide. We've not hit any pockets that we need to do any regeneration cuts on, but that's part of our management strategy moving forward as it is with the county. I would say right now that change of the fiscal year has also, we're operating under a continuing resolution. And so that puts us into different gymnastics for how we do our business model in the next coming months up until December 10th. And that'll affect things like our forestry operation, our recreation program, and others as we navigate that. Right now, from a recreation standpoint, we're moving into prep for the fall and winter seasons. Our trails are being cleared. Ski trails are being prepped. We're working with the clubs on reroute potentials and needs. Matthew Road, Trail 5 are some of the trails that we're working on right now with the Alliance and the county. Other recreation happening on the 12th, the elk hunt will begin with the state of Wisconsin, but that anchors right out of Clam Lake and affects a lot of our access roads and users on that standpoint. That's really just a real quick snapshot of activity happening on the forest. Like the DNR, we are monitoring the fire dangers across the state. Yesterday, we responded to a 6-acre fire on the Lakewood-Leona district, and that was in a very remote area. It was believed to It's under investigation is the formal answer, but we believe it's a lightning strike. And it was 6 acres. We had to ring it and take it out to 26 because it was in a very rocky area. So fuels are receptive and we are responding to that. We're planning to put up a flight today if we can get an aircraft and look for more detections there. So just fire danger is high and we are staffing and responding to that. That's a quick update. I'm happy to be here and answer any questions that the board may have regarding the National Forest or any of our programs that we offer.
Any questions?
As far as the Good Neighbor Authority, that project's been going on for what, about 8 years or so? What is your take on how the partnership between the feds and the state and county is working? And do you see room for improvement?
Sure, Steve, it's a good question. So the Good Neighbor Authority was an action by Congress that allowed the National Forest Service to enter agreements with states, tribes, and other entities to help manage our land base. And so the Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest was the first forest in the nation to grab onto that authority. Our district, the Great Divide, was the first district to do that. And we've been in it about 8 years on a 10-year agreement right now. And so we're working fluidly with the state. It's what it basically allows us to do is treat more acres on the landscape. And so by doing that, we're able to more fully implement our forest plan. And so that 125 million board feet that I talked about earlier, a portion of that is, acres treated through the Good Neighbor Authority. Some of that is with Sawyer County, on our district, that's Ashland and Bayfield County. And it's been a successful program. We've been able to accomplish more by having a diversified workforce out there working, everything from state employees to county and then contract foresters. So it allows us to almost, in theory, subcontract out work to treat more acres. And it's been very successful. So we're coming to the tail end of those agreements. They're a couple of years out, year and a half out from concluding. We're working with the state, looking at, should we renew that agreement, which we want to, and it's just now the mechanics of how do we refine that to have a better business model moving forward for both the state and the Forest Service.
As far as going forward, is that state or forest level agreement then going forward, or is that a national thing, or how does that work?
It's held at within the state of Wisconsin. And so the Chequamegon-Nicolet will negotiate with the Department of Natural Resources. So state government and federal government just negotiating at the local level on what that agreement looks like moving forward. We have slowed down a little bit on our Good Neighbor offerings moving out into 25 and 26. We ramped up hard. We moved a lot of acres. We generated program revenue. We started to implement that revenue. And right now we've got to the point where we've accelerated those so much we need to pull back and kind of go back to basics and just reestablish fundamental sales and then allow the state to follow their business model to have success there. So it's a little bit of a pause right now moving forward in 25 and 26. We're still pushing sales over to the DNR, but it's at a slower pace to allow things to clean up as we transition between, an old agreement and a new agreement.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Any more questions?
I would just end and say thank you for the opportunity to come and speak with you today. And if there's ever a topic that the county is grappling with, or if there's questions about what happens on the other side of our line, I'm not a believer in patches. I'm a believer in getting together and talking through issues. So I would welcome the opportunity to come back again and speak with you.
Good.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to number 12, the Zoning and Conservation Department. What's the county report?
For September through October, conservation staff has still been busy doing on-site visits, cost-sharing project and production or project design work. Also looking at better policy implementation with our decontamination ordinance. We had a meeting with our local law enforcement to kind of get a better working policy on those matters. We recently conducted our Tiger Cat Dam inspection, and those findings were submitted to the DNR. The Sawyer County Lakes Forum has been revived and will be holding meetings in the near future. The Sawyer County Spring Tree Sale will be up and running in approximately 2 weeks, and that the poster and speaking contests have been sent out to our area schools. It's a a wonderful program that we've been doing for as long as I've been here now, where we send out these contests to our area schools. What's the theme this year?
Home is where the habitat is.
Home is where the habitat is the theme. So we'll start seeing those coming in here throughout the winter months. So that is my conservation update, but then we also have several agenda items after that.
Jay, can we get a copy of the dam report for the Tiger Cat?
Yes, would you like it as part of a committee meeting, or would you just like it sent to the committee members?
Is anyone else interested in getting that report? I'd just like to share it with the Tiger Cat
Sure.
Association. But if you could send it to me, thank you.
Okay, then we'd go to B, resolution.
Yeah, so we've had these in the past, and ultimately we are looking at applying for a planning grant. We've had several lakes that have experienced kind of a bloom, if you per se, with some type of invasive species. So the DNR has a unique opportunity in which we can apply for a planning grant, which then that money is used by an individual that actually writes up the plan for that individual lake, for them to secure additional funding through the DNR for treatment of the AIS. The resolution we have right now is basically authorizing me to be the signature to submit for those grants. This grant project is a kind of a cost match with the county and the state. In this position here, the cost match would be an in-kind donation with our aquatic invasive species coordinator, Natalie Erler, in that she'll basically take off one hat where she's getting already paid another grant, put on the hat where she's getting paid by the county, and say, now that I'm working for the county, I'm applying this time to this grant so that it is a wash for the county. There'll be no money out of pocket for the county. It'll go back right into the cost share process for this grant. Is that summarized right? Okay.
So we basically just need a motion to give you guys.
Yeah, so I would be needing a motion to approve the resolution, and then we do have a signature page for you individuals to sign, and then we will be submitting for the grant, which I believe is due early November here.
And it does not need to go to the board, is that correct?
It does not.
I had a question, Jay, about the grant process. So speaking again for the Tiger Cat Flowage, we are in the process of applying for a number of grants. Is this going to interfere with that grant process? That Natalie, I know you've been working on that.
Yeah, it's not gonna like interfere at all. Like Jay kind of said, the one grant kind of pays for, you know, my salary as all the duties I do for everyone throughout the county. That's a different one, but this one is just specifically for two lakes, Loretta Lake out near Draper, and then Barber Lake near Winter. So I'd be putting a hat on just for those two specific lakes. So there wouldn't be any sort of like double dipping, I guess you would call it, with Tiger Cat at all. Yep.
I guess I'd like to make a motion that we allow the resolution 2024 for the aquatic invasive species authorization grant.
Okay, motion is made. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion is made and seconded to go ahead with the resolution. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Yeah, and then moving on, we have a bunch of information for the wildlife damage program. We do have Seth Zessliger here from USDA, the APHIS organization. Did you want to run through these then, Seth?
So this one is one that we would need action on. The other one was for information only. Seth Zestiger with USDA Wildlife Services, based out of the Ladysmith DNR Service Center. Would it be helpful to give everyone a brief overview of what we do, or should we just dive right into it? I'm not sure how familiar with that the committee is with what our program is all about.
I guess the overview might be good.
Yeah. So Wildlife Damage and Abatement and Claims Program is a program offered through the state of Wisconsin, through the DNR, that the counties can opt to participate in. Sawyer County has chosen to do so, and they have contracted out the administration of that program with Wildlife Services. The primary goals of this program are to assist agricultural producers to primarily mitigate damage from bear, deer, elk, geese, and turkey, and then secondarily compensate for damages that we are unable to prevent. So I have myself as the administrator in the counties, and I have a team of about 5 that assist me with those duties. Sawyer County in particular, bear is the main critter that we deal with, bear damage to corn. So I guess this first item would be setting the crop prices for 2024 that producers will be reimbursed for the wildlife damage that they incur. And the spreadsheet that's up on the monitor is just the list of sources that I derived these prices from, or the proposed price from. I run several different scenarios, and the one that seemed most equitable was the yearly average from September of 2023 through September of 2024. So that's what I'm proposing, but the committee certainly has the autonomy to set the price at whatever they desire, with good justification.
So we would be basically here to set the prices for what people are going to be paid for the damage.
Correct. And the county is not the one that's writing out the check. This, once claims are compiled, damage claims are compiled, I have to submit them to the committee again for your approval and review, but then they get sent to the state, and the state is the one that cuts the check to pay for those losses.
Okay. Good. Any suggestions from the board here on the prices that it came up with?
I guess I'd like to make a motion that we accept the prices that he set, taking the 2023 to 24 cost for crop damage.
Okay. Motion's made
I will second that motion.
and seconded to accept the prices for crop damage. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Oppose? Motion is carried.
I do need signatures on several of these documents, but we can
Yep.
wait till the meeting's concluded, so don't tie things up. Second item, if we're ready to move on to that,
Yep.
would be setting the damage assessment deadline. We're required by statute and administrative code to set a deadline beyond which producers can no longer request a crop damage appraisal. There's a couple of reasons for that. Overwintered crops are not eligible for wildlife damage. If you got corn standing out there in January, it's going to get pounded by every deer that's in the county. So there's two different factors we can look at that. One is the projected or actual 90% harvest date. That's pretty difficult to determine, especially the last couple of years, just given the weather variability. We had such a wet spring, then a drought the last couple of months, so maturity rates are all over the place. And then the second criteria that we have to meet is that no crops are permitted to be appraised after the start of winter. First date of winter is on December 21st. Just given the variability in crop maturity, my proposed date for the last day that an appraisal can be requested is December 20th. But again, that is something that the committee has the authority to change if they so desire.
I make a motion that we set December 20th as the final date for any crop damage.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to put the deadline on December 20th. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And the motion is carried. Thank you.
The final item that I have for your consideration would be to set the 2025 budget to administer the damage program. This money is pass-through money from the state, so zero levy to the county, won't impact the county's finances at all. However, since the county maintains oversight over the program, I do still need your approval to submit this budget. This budget is comparable to previous years. I believe the only change was a 4% cost, congressionally mandated cost of living increase, which is something that we don't have any control over.
I make a motion to accept the budget as proposed.
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to accept the budget. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion has carried. Thank you.
That's all I have for the committee, unless you guys have any other questions for me. I guess just a couple items of interest would be that we trapped and relocated about 130 bears out of the corn in Rusk County from August through about mid-September. And that would be myself and my 2 assistants in Sawyer. So we moved a fair number of bears. I think we kept a pretty good lid on the damage, but you know, at that volume of bears in Sawyer County, there's still going to be some in the corn. So.
And where did most of them go?
Really depends on where the farm is located at that we catch them. You know, if some of them are in the southern part of the county, we like to move them a minimum distance of 30 miles, straight line distance, you know, as the crow flies. Average is about 32. A very few of those may end up in the Flambeau, but generally they're going way north of Clam Lake up in the Marengo area. They need more bears up there, so that's where they get taken.
We've got an abundance of them.
Yes, there's no doubt about it. Rusk and Sawyer counties, certainly the most high density bear populations in the state, if not the nation. I mean, over the course of the last 6 years, since we contracted with the county to do the program in Sawyer, between Sawyer and Rusk, I think we've moved somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,600 bears out of the corn in that time frame. There's lots of bears here.
Do you notice bear population moving south quite a bit?
Yes, there's, I'm in the Rhinelander district, but we have a Waupun district, and they've been getting more and more nuisance bear complaints for sure, and the agricultural damage complaints are starting to rise up a little bit too.
All right, good. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Do we have anything for LCO report on G? Nothing at all. Okay, number 13. Can I get some help from Andy on this?
So I told you last month that we were waiting for the template resolution from Wisconsin County Association. We received it yesterday. So we just got it. Janine and I went through it last night, so have to punt another month to put it on the agenda to get it approved.
Okay. Very good. Number 14, any committee updates from appointed boards? Nothing. Future agenda items, number 15. Do we need anything moved the foreclosure?
13 should go back on next month.
Okay.
Do you have any idea when you might get together with the other user groups so that this proposal for the forest trail could move forward?
I'll probably send a few emails out. I'm hoping, you know, November, December, you know, we could probably get into it pretty good.
So we wouldn't put anything on the agenda for next month?
I don't think so. I think where we're sitting now, this would be a next year project anyway. So I think we'll take a little bit of time and get everybody comfortable. So at this point, we're not slowing down the project because I don't think anything could happen this late in the game anyway.
So you would let John know if it was ready for an agenda item?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Good. Thank you. Any correspondence or reports from conferences? Oh, nothing there. Then we go to 17, which is that we are adjourned. Thank you so much for being here today.